The Bayou Cannibal. The air was heavy with the scent of decay and moss, clinging to the skin like a second layer. The Louisiana bayou, tangled and dark, pulsed with a life all its own. Moonlight barely pierced through the ancient cypress trees, their branches draped with ghostly gray Spanish moss. A lone, narrow trail twisted through the swamp, the kind only fools and the desperate would dare to tread at night. In the distance, a faint hum carried over the still water. At first, it seemed like the buzzing of insects, but as it grew louder, it became clear. It was a low, guttural humming. Human, but not quite. Claire tightened her grip on the flashlight, its weak beam barely cutting through the suffocating dark. Her best friend, Jessica, limped beside her, blood soaking through the makeshift bandage on her calf. Claire, whispering to Jessica, "We need to keep moving." "He's out there." Jessica, panting, I can't. My leg, it's too much." Claire glanced back down the trail. The sound of snapping twigs echoed faintly behind them. She dropped to her knees and grabbed Jessica's shoulders. "Claire, urgent. Listen to me. If we stop now, we're dead. Do you want to end up like Sam?" Jessica's face paled at the mention of their missing friend. She nodded weakly, biting her lip to keep from crying out as they pressed on. The trail opened into a clearing, a patch of solid ground surrounded by murky water. In the middle stood a decrepit shack, its roof sagging under years of neglect. A single lantern flickered inside, casting shadows that danced on the warped wooden walls. "Jessica, we should hide there." Claire, shaking her head. "Number, it's too obvious. What if it's his?" Jessica, pleading. "Claire, I can't keep going. Please." Claire's resolve crumbled. She helped Jessica limp toward the shack, every step accompanied by the nagging feeling that they were being watched. Inside, the air was stifling, thick with the smell of rotting wood and something metallic. Blood. A rusted stove sat in one corner, its surface blackened with soot. A table held a collection of knives, each one sharp enough to gleam even in the dim light. Claire, murmuring, This isn't right. We need to leave." Before Jessica could respond, a low creak came from the doorway. Both women froze as the shadow of a figure stretched across the floorboards. Jessica, terrified, whispering, "He's here." The figure stepped into the light. A man, tall and wiry, his skin weathered like old leather. His wide-brimmed hat cast a shadow over his face, but his grin glistened in the lantern's glow. Stranger. "Well, ain't this a surprise? Got myself some uninvited guests." Claire instinctively stepped in front of Jessica, her voice trembling but steady. "Claire, we didn't mean to trespass. We'll leave." The man chuckled, a sound like gravel sliding down a hill. Stranger. "Leave? Now, why would you do that? Y'all came this far. Least you could do is stay for supper." His grin widened, revealing jagged, yellowed teeth. Behind him, the door creaked shut on its own, and the click of a lock echoed through the room. The stranger tilted his head, his expression a mix of amusement and menace. "Stranger, how about we make this fun? I let you go, if you can make it out before dawn." Claire, "Let us go now. We don't want any trouble." The man's laughter filled the shack, louder and more guttural than before. Stranger, "Oh, trouble's already here, darling. Best run along. Clock's ticking." The door flew open, and Claire didn't wait. She grabbed Jessica, pulling her toward the swamp. The sound of the man's laughter followed them, echoing through the trees. Outside, the bayou came alive with sounds, splashing in the water, rustling in the bushes. The flashlight flickered, threatening to die, as Claire pushed forward, dragging Jessica through the muck. Jessica, weakly, "Claire, I can't." Claire, gritting her teeth, Yes, you can. Don't stop. Not now. A blood-curdling scream cut through the air. Claire froze, her breath catching in her throat. It wasn't Jessica's voice. It was Sam's, or what sounded like him. Claire, to herself, "He's playing with us." She tightened her grip on Jessica, her mind racing. The man's game wasn't just about running. He wanted to break them, to scatter their resolve until they gave up. As dawn hit the horizon, Claire and Jessica stumbled into another clearing. An old dock jutted out into the water, where a rusted rowboat bobbed against its mooring. "Claire, the boat. We can use it." But as they approached, the sound of boots on wood echoed behind them. Claire turned, and there he was, the stranger, standing at the edge of the clearing, his machete glinting in the growing light. "Stranger," mockingly. "Almost made it. Shame y'all didn't move faster." Claire reached for a broken plank, gripping it tightly. She stood between the stranger and Jessica, her fear replaced with determination. "Claire, if you want us, you'll have to kill me first." The stranger's grin faltered for the first time, replaced with something darker. He lunged, and Claire swung the plank with all her strength. The fight was a blur of adrenaline and desperation. Finally, Claire landed a blow to his head, sending the man tumbling into the water. He sank beneath the surface, his wide-brimmed hat floating briefly before vanishing into the murk. Claire turned to Jessica, who was already crawling into the boat. Claire, panting, "Let's go. Now." They rowed in silence as the sun rose, the swamp coming alive with birdsong. But even as they reached safety, Claire couldn't shake the feeling that the stranger's laughter still echoed in the trees.